Parak Yud Gimel, the 13th chapter of the book of Mishlei, continues with much of the stuff that we've had over the last little bit. Ben Chacham Musara V'Leitz Lo Shama Ge'ara. A wise son is through the discipline of his father, meaning you listen to that which your father, that which others tell you that you're doing wrong. A scoffer, the late, he never hears. He doesn't listen to the Ge'ara. He doesn't listen to people's. He doesn't listen to people's suggestions, we'll call them. Mi pri pi ish yochal tov v'nefesh bogdim chamas. A man enjoys good from the fruit of his speech, but out of the throat the treacherous comes lawlessness. And it's similar to what we had in the last chapter, the good versus the bad, and a lot of it described through their attitudes of speech and what comes out of their mouth. Nitzor piv shomer nafsho posek sifatav michitalo. He who guards his tongue preserves his life. He who opens wide his lips are his ruin. We said it the other day, we'll say it again. Geder l'chochma shtika. The best way to attain wisdom is, I don't know if you can hear that, but you can see the mouth was closed. Mita'avavaya nafsho atzel v'nefesh charutzim tidushan. A lazy man craves but has nothing. The diligent will feast on rich stuff. Dvar sheker yisnat sadik v'rasha yavish v'yachbir. A righteous man hates lies. The wicked man is vile and disgraceful. Tzedakah titzor tamdarech v'rishah tisalev chatas. Righteousness protects him who is blameless. Wickedness subverts the sinner. Yesh mit asher v'ein kol mitroshesh v'hon rav. One man pretends to be rich and has nada. Another professes to be poor and has much wealth. It's just, this moving away. I don't know which is saying if one is good and one is bad. It's not so good to pretend and live a wealthy life if you have no money. But I don't know that this is, like I said, very often in these chapters, we have the tzaddik versus rasha, the one who accepts the suggestions of others, who will learn, become greater, as opposed to the other one. It's not clear that one is as much easily understood as being the righteous and the wicked. Continuing verse 8, Pasuk Kofer nefesh ish ashro, v'rashlo shamad ge'ara. Riches are ransom for a man's life. The poor never heard a ge'ara. Again, a nice word we're using, a suggestion. They didn't listen to anybody who ever excoriated them or told them what they should do correctly. Or tzadikim yismach v'ner rishaim yid'ach. The light of the righteous is radiant. It brings simcha, it brings joy. The lamp of the wicked is extinguished. In past chapters, we had these ideas of the righteous one is going to be the one that's going to live. The orach tzadikim is going to remain. Right? We had zecher tzadik livracha. You name the memory of the righteous as a blessing. It lives on, as opposed to the name of the wicked is your kav is going to be erased. So similar to those statements in earlier chapters. Rak bezadon yitain matzah ve'et no atzim chochma. Arrogance yields nothing but trouble. Wisdom belongs to those who seek advice. Hon may hevel yimat v'kovetz al yad yarba. Wealth may dwindle, may disappear to less than nothing, but he who gathers little by little, increasing it. Those are the bankers who tell you about compounding interest or whatever. And here in this verse 11, we have the word hevel. We will not so long from now being the book of Kohelet, where the word hevel is in many ways the key word in that book. It means a breath, nothingness, something that dissipates, something that's there for a moment. Here it's saying wealth will dwindle to less than nothing, probably if you spend it a lot. Tochelet hope deferred thickens the heart, but desire realized is a tree of life. So if you have a desire here, I don't think it's talking about things like sexual desire. I think it's talking about a desire to be good. That can be a tree of life for you. Baz l'davar yechavel lo v'rei mitzvah hu yeshulam. He who hates precepts, who hates laws, will be injured by them. You'll speed too much, and heaven forbid, you'll get into an accident. But he who respects the command will be rewarded. Your insurance companies will lower your rates. Torat chacham mekor chayim lasur mimokshe mavet. The instruction of a wise man is, again, the Makor Chayim, the fountain of life. A few times in this chapter, we've had this idea of Chayim, together with Chokhmah, together with listening, together with getting better. The eighth Chayim we saw before, enabling one to avoid the things that can trap them, the snares. That's what Torah Chacham, the wisdom, which is instructive wisdom, which is a moral wisdom, will keep you away from potential traps and things that can weaken and lessen your life. Seichel tov yitain chen v'derech bogdim eitan. Good sense wins favor, right? Seichel. The way of the bogey, the treacherous person, is unchanging. They don't listen. They don't get any clues. Nothing changes for them. If you remember way back when we discussed Eliyahu, Eliyahu may not got into total detail, but Eliyahu was told by God to go to Har Horev, which is the same thing as Har Sinai, in a 40-day journey. For the reader's perspective, he's being reminded to be like Moshe. And God asks him what he's doing there, and he says, I'm the only one who listens to God. And then God shows him the thunder and the lightning and the earthquakes, and God keeps saying to him, God is not in the thunder, and God is not in the lightning, and God is not into the earthquake. And then comes the kol d'mama daka, the still small voice. And God says to Eliyahu, he says, God is in the still small voice. And the message is supposed to be, Elio, don't be so harsh, don't be so cruel, don't be so vindictive. You will, kindness is what's going to work in terms of getting Bnei Yisrael to listen to my mitzvah. And after attempting to teach Elio that lesson, God says to Elio, what are you here? Why are you here? And Eliyahu, despite the lesson God tries to teach him, says the very same thing. He says, I'm here because I'm the only one who follows your commandments, God. Right? The person who doesn't listen, person's unchanging. I'm not calling Eliyahu a bogey, a treacherous person, but Eliyahu didn't get the message. He didn't understand what God was telling him. That's why God fired him, by the way. God was an act of mercy. God says, go appoint your successor. This is not working out. You're not understanding the message and to how to make Bnei Yisrael better. It's not going to be through fire and fury. So here, right, the person, this chapter is very much about that the person who, and we've had this in previous chapters, you take advice, if you listen to what other people say and you reflect upon it and you maybe you act slightly different or a lot differently, then things in your life will get better. But if you don't, you'll be unchanging and there'll be no positive movement in your life. Let's continue in verse 16. Every clever man acts knowledgeably, but a dull person, a foolish person, demonstrates his stupidity. Malach rasha yipol b'ra v'tzir emunim marpeh. Harm befalls the wicked messenger. Faithful messenger, a faithful courier brings healing. Reish, v'kalon porea musar, v'shomer tochachot yechubad. Poverty and humiliation are for he who spurns discipline. So again, this word musar, it's advice, it's suggestions, it's telling somebody, your boss tells you should do this a little bit differently. Good idea to listen if that person is the boss. Poverty and humiliation can become to the person who doesn't listen. But he who takes the suggestion, who takes the reproof, will get honor. Ta'ava, we're in verse 19, pasuk Ytet, ta'ava niyet ha'erav l'nafshot v'to'avot ksilim sur mera. Desire realized is sweet to the soul. To turn away from evil is abhorrent to the stupid, right? The smart people know to turn away from evil. The wicked ones don't know to turn away from evil. You want to know whose advice you should take? We keep telling you to take advice. People that suggest to you things that maybe will make you a little bit of a better person, maybe make you a better employee, make you a better husband, make you a better teacher, whatever it might be. If you are around the wise, if you stick around the wise, you become wise. Like it tells us in Pirkei Avot that you should write. You should be with the dust of the Chachamim. You should connect yourself to them. You'll become wise. You'll become more moral. But the dullards, the fools, the people who go to them, they come to grief. Interesting to think about this in the book of Shlomo's advice. We talked about the early chapters to Bini. In these chapters, we don't see it. The advice to his son, the question about whether it was the advice to his son, Rechavam, and the big decision that Rechavam makes in his life. The foolish decision is he doesn't listen to the wise suggestions of the older generation of his fathers. He listens to his friends, the people who he grew up with, who tell him to be even harsher to Bnei Yisrael, to tax them even more than his father did. And that causes his kingdom to quickly separate into two. There is a secession from him. Continuing in verse 21, Pasuk Chaf Aleph, Chataim tardei fra'ah v'yet tzadikim yishalem tov. Misfortune pursues sinners, but the righteous are well rewarded. I wish the world was that simple. Tov yanchil v'nei vanim v'tzafun l'tzadik chel chotei. A good man has what to bequeath to his grandchildren. For the wealth of sinners is stored up for the righteous, right? The wealth of the sinner is going to eventually make it to the righteous. Again, another verse I'll say, I wish the world worked that way. Rav ochel nir rashim v'yesh nispeh below mishpat. Right? The tilling of the poor yields much food, but substance is swept away for lack of moderation, for lack of doing things in a normative way. If all you do is work, it's not going. You might have a lot of money, but it might not necessarily work out in life. Choshech shivto sonei v'no v'ohavo shecharo musar. He who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves discipline, right? He who loves him will discipline him early. Don't wait until it's too late to tell your kids the way to act. Sadik ochel lesova nafsho uvetem rishayim techtar. The righteous man eats to his heart's content, but the belly of the wicked is empty. So again, another chapter that for the most part, the wicked versus the righteous. Speech very important as the distinguishing factor between the wicked and the righteous. But here, really, the factor is two different things as well. One, it's important who you surround yourself with. If you live amongst the wise, if you spend your time with the wise, they will influence you. If you spend time with the wicked and with the foolish, they will influence you, and you'll go in one of those directions. And part of that is listening to what suggestions people make to you. I'm not saying the person who is constantly telling you every little thing that you've done wrong, every T that you missed to cross, every I that you missed to dot, but people who once in a while, in addition to the compliments and nice things that they have to say, will once in a while tell you, you could do this a little bit better or a lot better. And those people who are able to take that advice will ultimately grow in their life. So those are the messages here of chapter 13 of the book of Mishlei.